All right, good morning to you. Many thanks for joining us here at DGTV. I'm Nancy Kuria, and this morning we're having a discussion on dyslexia and autism. If you're wondering what is that, don't worry, because I have two amazing guests from KCCL who are going to introduce themselves, because I feel if I introduce them, I might miss something, and that is not right. So, Madam Esther, Madam Effie, karibu sana to DG.
Thank you for having
us.
us.
It's really nice to have you. I think the last time we saw each other was during the event at Dyslexia Awareness event. Yes. Yeah, all right. So I want you to introduce yourselves. That is your camera. So kindly introduce yourself.
Okay. Thank you very much, Nancy. We are honored to be here this morning at DGTV. My name is Esther Wamai. I am a special needs educator, specializing in specific learning disabilities and mostly a condition called dyslexia, which I know we'll be talking about later in details. Yeah. I'm also the principal at Kenya Community Center for Learning, a school that caters for children with diverse learning challenges. Thank you.
All right. Effie, it's you.
All right. My name is Effie Otieno. I'm a sibling of a child with autism. I'm also a siblings director at Special Olympics Kenya. I'm also the current second runners-up Miss Autism Kenya. Yeah, and most of all, I'm an inclusion revolutionist.
Yeah, we'll get in right to that later. But for now, Madam Esther, kindly define for us, what does it mean to have dyslexia or to be autistic?
All right. So dyslexia is a specific learning disability that is language-based. So by language-based, I mean that dyslexia affects the acquisition of language skills. And language skills here, we are talking about maybe the English language in our context, which is our medium of instruction in school. And because it's a learning disability, it is identified in school. So when a child is born, there are no visible signs that would tell you that a child is dyslexic. However, as a child starts developing, there are some red flags, or what we call telltale signs, that may manifest at an early age, although at that point you wouldn't tell it's dyslexia. And mostly if a child delays in language delay is one of the red flags that would be a pointer to dyslexia later, or basically maybe delay in even other developmental milestones. But mostly because we are saying dyslexia is a language-based disorder, out of other maybe developmental milestones, delays like walking or crawling or sitting, the one that could be an indicator that a child may turn out to be dyslexic is the language delay. When the child joins kindergarten, again, there are still also other red flags that a teacher or a parent can pick, because it's at that point where children are being exposed to nursery rhymes, you know, the songs, the short songs that kids are taught. So if you realize that a child is struggling even with those rhymes, or the child has problems articulating or pronouncing words, maybe even reversing the words, like maybe if they mean to say animal, and they say aminal. So something like that, or they are struggling with learning the nursery rhymes, or as they advance maybe towards PP1, PP2, where they now start learning the sounds. So if the child also has struggled identifying or recognizing those rhymes, I mean sounds, even if it's just the rote naming of rhymes, and the child still is struggling with the sounds, the letters of the alphabet, so those are also red flags. When it comes to writing, again, when the child struggles with sound formation, and especially where there are reversals of B and D, we call them look-alike letters or sounds, B and D, P and Q, sometimes even 9, or even just reversing letters. If that persists until maybe past grade 2, that already could be a sign that this child may be struggling with dyslexia. So in a nutshell, what I'm saying is that dyslexia is a condition that is identified in school, and although I'll say they are red flags, that because many parents, once you speak to them, in retrospect, they will tell you, I noted this when the child was young, I noted this when they were in kindergarten, when they were in early years of learning, but they didn't pay much attention until now, maybe around grade 2, grade 3, when the learning struggle really persists and the child is not catching up with the peers. That's now when it's clear that a child probably needs to be assessed for dyslexia. Yes.
Okay, let's talk autism. Take us through, take us through autism. What is autism and what are some of the signs that tell you that you're autistic?
All right, very good. That's a very good question, Nancy, and especially because I hear a lot of people asking what's the difference between autism and dyslexia. Yeah. And some people even think they are synonymous, but these are two distinct conditions. So autism is a neurodevelopmental condition, and it's got to do with the way the brain is wired. But there are 3 characteristics that we look at that would tell if a child or a person is autistic. And the first one is if the child has impaired communication. In communication here, we are looking at both expressive and receptive communication. But mostly persons with autism do not struggle with the receptive language because they are not deaf. So if you give instructions, they are able to take in those instructions. They can follow simple instructions. But mostly they struggle with what you call the expressive language. So they will either be non-verbal or they have very limited language, maybe restricted to 1 word or 2 words, so they wouldn't like construct a full sentence. They are also, the communication is also challenged where they are not able to initiate a conversation or even maintain one. So that is one area that we look at. But you can't look at one area in isolation. So if the communication bit is impaired, then it also goes with, again, impaired or poor social interaction, where if it's a child, you know, children at a young age are very social. And they love interacting with other children, and it doesn't matter whether they are strangers. So long as kids get together, they are able to interact very well. But if you see your child has challenges interacting with other kids, and they are opting to stick
to be alone,
or just playing with objects, and then they have obsession to those objects. So that is also another red flag that a child could be autistic. The other 3rd characteristic that we look at is something we call stereotype behaviors or repetitive behaviors. So persons with autism have a preference for doing things in a certain way. So they have preference for sameness, what we call routine. So for instance, if there's a route that child uses when going to school, change of that route,
your problems.
Or if there's a way they want their things put in a certain order, and you come and disrupt that, that's a problem. Then they also have other behaviors that may look out of the ordinary, like they will flap their hands, you find them blocking their ears, or they are spinning their head, some will even bang their head on a surface, could be a wall or on a table. So those are some of the stereotype behaviors which we call stealing, because sometimes what happens is that a person with autism, by the time they are doing that, we judge them harshly. But it's actually, in some instances, it's what we call a self-regulation mechanism for them, because probably they might be undergoing what we call some sensory overload. For instance, in this studio, we have these lights that are normal to us, but to an autistic child or an autistic person, this may be too overwhelming. I can hear the sound of the fan, and I have no problem with it. But to an autistic child or person, that sound is amplified, and it becomes such loud noise for them that they cannot handle. So they have challenges integrating what we call sensory inputs. What they are hearing with their ears, what they are seeing with their eyes, the touch. So sometimes they are not able to, their brain is not able to regulate all those sensory inputs, and it overwhelms them. And they go into something we call a sensory, a meltdown, which people confuse for a tantrum. So those are some of the telltale signs that a person or a child could be autistic. But again, maybe why the confusion between dyslexia and autism is because autism again may present with a learning disability or a learning challenge. So there's what we call comorbidity or co-occurrence, where this autism may co-occur with other conditions. And one of the most common conditions that it co-occurs with is dyslexia or epilepsy, sleep disorders, emotional disorders. So autism is a bit more complex, but those three characteristics that I've talked about are the key indicators that one could be autistic.
Okay, there's this myth about people who are dyslexic and have autistic. Usually people say they have mental problems. Can you actually clarify that and say it's not a mental problem? But on the same, can dyslexia and autism lead to mental problems?
All right, very good. Yeah, it's very good to make that clear.
Yeah.
Yes, because people think that developmental disorders or disabilities are mental disorders. They are actually not mental disorders. So for instance, dyslexia. Dyslexia, as I've said, is just a learning disability.
Yeah.
And we actually say 1 in 5 people
have it.
Looking at this room, I think we could be 10, so we might have 2 of us who are dyslexic, but you can't tell. You can't tell. But and why dyslexia is very hard to tell, because I've said you will only tell when a person interacts with learning. You know, the books, the reading, the writing, the comprehension. So if there's a struggle in that, that's when you'll actually be able to tell that this person could be dyslexic. But when it comes to the intelligence, they actually have between average to above average intelligence, IQ. These are smart, brilliant people. I know we'll be talking about the famous people with dyslexia, the Richard Bransons of this world, and many others, and we'll talk about that later. So dyslexic people are in all aspects what would say typical people. I don't want to use the word normal. I don't want to use the word normal because I don't want to also say that we have people who are normal, but they are typical people with no mental retardation. Because as I've said, their intelligence is very high. Autism, on the other hand, it's also not a mental issue. It's actually not, although in most cases, because autism, actually both autism and dyslexia occur in what we call a spectrum or a continuum, ranging from mild to severe. So mild, moderate, profound, and severe and profound. And in most cases, like in the case of autism, why autism is easily confused for a mental issue, because for those that are on the profound to the severe end of the spectrum, the fact that it presents with a lot of challenges, and probably also it affects the intelligence. So most of them present with what we call intellectual disability. Intellectual disability is that they have a very low IQ, and actually formally we used to refer to people with the lower IQ as being mentally retarded. We've moved from that term. We want to be politically correct. We want to use terms that dignify people. So we've moved from mental retardation to intellectual disability. So the fact that maybe they are challenged in a more significant way than those with autism that are very mild, and actually a person with mild to moderate autism would walk into this room and will not tell, because we even have one form of autism called the Asperger's syndrome, a very high functioning autism. Those are engineers, they are doctors, they are brilliant, but they may now have those other characteristics I was talking about, that they will not socialize much, they would prefer to stick to themselves, and maybe there are few stereotype behaviors you may see them doing, but when it comes to the intelligence is actually very, very high. So what I'm trying to say, Nancy, is that these are not mental issues. However, you asked what's the relationship. What happens is that because of maybe the frustration that comes with these conditions, and these frustrations are actually due to external factors. So these people are very prone or susceptible to mental health issues. And so there's a difference between mental illness and mental health issues. Mental health issues is what me and you, the kawaida people, will still go through. If you have something that is bothering you, you're likely to experience stress, anxiety, depression. So those are the some of also the mental health issues that persons maybe with disabilities or with certain challenges that they experience, just like the normal people. Yes.
Wow, I feel like I'm in class. I'm learning. I think I should be taking notes. I should have come with my notepad. I feel like, I know. Well, you guys at home who are watching us, like Tushakwa introduced, now at least we have an idea of what is dyslexia and what is autism. Remember, if you have any comment or you would like to share this information, because I feel it's very crucial and very important to share this information with other people, just we are live at Facebook and YouTube at DigiTV Kenya. So please leave your comment. I'll try my best to read them and also share. Now let's go to Miss Effie. Miss Effie, how is the environment so far? Unajisikiaje?
Uko sawa?
Uko sawa? You're ready, right? Now, looking at you, you're a very young person. So let me start with what prompted you to want to be Miss Autism, and also what pushed you to want to be in this special needs field?
All right. So once again, hello. So before I got to actually pageant for Miss Autism, I also work with Special Olympics Kenya, which basically works with persons with intellectual disabilities. So I have been championing for this. My sister, I have a sister, and I also have a brother who are both autistic. So growing up, realizing that people are not quite aware, and then I realized if it doesn't start with me, nobody else will create awareness and also have my siblings being included in the society. So I decided, why not?
Let's do this.
Let's do this.
Yeah. So Miss Autism, this is a first for me. Like I was going through this, like even when I was doing my research, even looking for other interviews and all that, I realized we don't have this information. Like this information, mostly it's in the western part, but here in Kenya, we actually have no idea. So I'm sure this is a first for many of us. So Miss Autism, what does Miss Autism do? And currently, who are you working with in some of your projects?
All right. So Miss Autism Kenya is basically a pageant that champions for inclusion for persons with autism. So also to mention, this was like my very first pageant, and I decided to, I won the second runners-up. So this is basically an organization that champions for inclusion for persons with autism. So there's Miss Light of Autism, and then there's Miss Autism. So Miss Light Autism is the person that has autism. So Miss Autism Kenya is the one that guides. Since you realize persons with autism, basically some can't express themselves. So to guide them, I'll have to be the one who champion for that, and I have to be quite aware and know everything that involves autism.
That is pretty nice. That is pretty nice. So back to you, Madam Esther. We've spoken about science and at what age too. We've said usually you can be able to detect this science at grade 2 kids, right? So there's that parent who's watching and they're like, they're not sure whether their kids are dyslexic or autistic. What can they do? Are there like any test centers in Kenya?
Yes. Yeah, so once a parent suspects that their child could be different, because parents will also always tell. So even if they don't have the expertise, as a parent, you're able to tell if your child is progressing at a normal rate. And so, as I've said, already we talked about the red flags or the signs and the symptoms. So if your child is struggling, it's as simple as this. If your child is struggling with learning and they're not catching up with their peers, and you have ruled out that this child has no vision issues, the eyes are okay, the ears are okay, and there's no other maybe medical condition that could be impeding learning, then it would be important for you to have your child assessed. And we have assessment centers. We at Kenya Community Center for Learning, we are an assessment center, a private assessment center. I personally am an assessor. I assess the children. And for those probably who may not even manage to come to a center like ours, because we're in Nairobi, and we could be addressing apparently that of Nairobi, we have, the government also has the assessment centers. So the National Government Center for Assessment is Kenya Institute of Special Education in Nairobi, Kasarani to be precise. It's a national center, a fully fledged center for assessment, and we also have therapy. So because some of these children, when you get to the interventions, also it's not just about assessment. So after assessment, what next? So the interventions that need to be put in place to be able to support. So the KISEM, Kenya Institute of Special Education, actually is both an assessment center and also an intervention center. They've also devolved the centers to all counties. We call them EAC centers. And if you go to any office, education office, the Ministry of Education offices, and just tell them that you're looking for an EAC center for assessment, you will be guided from there. Yes.
Wow, I feel like after this, I need to leave these links and some of these names because they're just passing. They are passing, and I feel like it's important to have this information. Well, guys, we're going for a short commercial break. We're just getting started. Like, we've only covered a quarter of our discussion today. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. This is DigiTV, and I'm your host for the morning. I'm Nancy Kuria.
Church invites you to our Sunday service. We reach the lost, build community, grow disciples, serve our neighbors, and in all things, worship the Almighty God. Join us for Sunday services from 10 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. You can also catch us live at DGTV and on Facebook at DGTV Kenya. We are located at Uzuri Institute Grounds, Thika. God bless you as you come.
Ubora na ladha ya mlo ama kinywaji hutegemea na mapambo ya viungo ama spices kwenye chakula. Kung'amua ukweli wa mambo kuhusu viungo hivyo, Kilimo Leo kinaingia shambani kukuletea ufahamu wa viungo hivyo vikiwa miche. Shughuli anayoifanya Caroline ili kuhakikisha kwamba chakula chako kinavutia na vile vile afya yako nayo akiwa anaijali.
Naitwa Caro. Karibu Herbs and Spices Propagators. We do propagate seedlings for farming and for home use. We started 2019 around August. Herbs are good for health. You know, they have a medicinal value.
Alhamisi hii usikose Kilimo Leo kuanzia mida ya saa 3 asubuhi.
Education is a passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today. At Victorian Girls High School, we endeavor to do just that. A home of great minds where talent meets academics while combining with discipline and good morals, resulting into a holistic individual. We offer the 844 system incorporating the CBC and sign language. Equipped with modern amenities including laboratories, agricultural facilities, as well as other co-curricular activities. Conveniently located along the Eastern Bypass, 300 meters off the Thika Superhighway. Enrollment is still ongoing for Form 1, 2 and 3. Contact us on 0701 870 871 or email us on victoriangirls@gmail.com.
You are welcome to learn with us. Thank you.
You should ask yourself, what is the purpose of this relationship that I am in?
Man was made naturally and spiritually productive by God for a purpose.
I have my blessing. I have my healing. I have my greatness. I have my power. And it's all inside of me in Christ.
The conversation is not just a dance chat. Every relationship is hard work. So if you are lazy, just be single. Let us do our two headache. Yeah, that's true.
It's about everything, life without holding back. I'm dating this person for a while. Then at some point you just sit and reflect. Is this person making me happy? Mama, you are better when you are single.
And we are going to keep it new and real while having fun. So we're going out. Mimi nimezoea nikitoka kwa gari unafunguliwa. Exactly. And then we shuka. The guy is special. And niko like bro nimevaa hiyo. Join us every Thursday starting from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
See you there.
All right, welcome back to DigiTV right here. I'm Nancy Kuria, and today we have been talking about dyslexia and autism with my guest today, that is Madam Esther Wamai, who is a dyslexic coach, and Miss Effie, who is an inclusion revolutionist. I hope I've gotten that one right. Yeah, so Madam Esther, back to you. There's someone who's watching and they're like, what causes autism and dyslexia? Like we said, it's not a mental disorder. It's just intellectual disability. So what causes it?
So maybe before we even go there, back maybe to the symptoms.
Yeah.
It's also important maybe to highlight on autism that another telltale sign that a child could be dyslexic, could be autistic, is a lack of eye contact.
Okay.
Yes, even from the early age, like even when the child is suckling, the normal thing is that they will be looking at the mother. There's that eye contact, which even at that age is missing. Yeah. So if it also continues and this child cannot maintain that eye contact, that is also a very strong telltale sign that a child could be autistic. Yeah. So back to the causes. So when it comes to neurodevelopmental conditions like dyslexia and autism, we actually do not have any known cause as of now, even with all the research going on. But we have what we call risk factors. So risk factors could be the factors that will predispose someone or a child to autism or dyslexia. And both, one of the risk factors is genetic or hereditary. Yeah. So you find that if in a family you have somebody who is autistic or dyslexic, chances are that is likely to be passed on to another family member. In most cases, I have seen children whose parents are dyslexic. Yeah. Also, the kids are. Yes, yes. So they say that like a father is likely to pass on the dyslexia gene to a son. Although I've also seen daughters also
going through the same.
Yes. So there's a genetic factor in both autism and dyslexia. So the other risk factor, and this mostly is on autism, is the parental age, when a parent is getting the child. So for the paternal age, when the age is a bit advanced, from 15 and above, that would predispose a child to maybe having a neurodevelopmental condition. So for the mothers, the age is a bit younger, from 40. However, these are just risk factors. Yeah. And why I want to emphasize that is because I know of mothers as young as 20 years, as young as 30 years, having children with autism who are actually their firstborns. Yeah. But if you look at the trend, that almost confirms the advanced parental age is a risk factor. I have seen most children who are lastborns, who are born when the parents are a bit aged. Yeah. So most of those children with either Down syndrome or autism, so there's that. It's almost something that research has confirmed. So another risk factor would be maybe exposure of the mother to some toxic substances, and especially when they're expectant. So like lead is one of the chemicals that has been seen to cause challenges with children during birth. Then other factors could be maybe when a mother again is expectant, and probably there are some medications they are taking. So some medications have also been shown to cause harm to the child. Or mothers who abuse substances, or are alcoholic, so that has also been expressed as a risk factor. But as I'm emphasizing, they're just risk factors, because we have parents who probably will
do all that until they get,
and they still get
kids who are normal.
Absolutely, they are typical.
With these terms.
Yeah, so they're just risk factors. Yeah. But for dyslexia, the genetic factor is very strong and very dominant. And I think maybe Nancy, just to go back to the definition of dyslexia, it's also important for our viewers to know that, as I've said, these are neurodevelopmental issues or conditions. Neuro is from the brain. So when it comes to dyslexia, because I think this is very important for our viewers to understand, is that dyslexia is a brain-based condition. So what does that mean? What that means is that it's a part of the brain that is affected. And we have different types of dyslexia, and apart from the one that I've talked about, the genetic hereditary dyslexia that is acquired through genes, the other common one is what we call primary dyslexia. And this one, a child is born with it, and just like when a child is developing in the womb, just like all the other organs are growing. So the brain is also an organ that also develops. And it's on the left side that we have a challenge, the left side of the brain. The brain has the left and the right hemisphere. So it's on the left hemisphere of the brain, in the wiring. A brain is like a circuit. So we have the neural pathways that look like wires, where information passes through. So it's on one side of the brain, on the left side of the brain, which is very localized, because it's not the entire brain. And that's why we are saying that they are still very intelligent. And there are so many other functions that they are able to perform. The only function that is affected is the learning one. Because it's that now localized part of the brain, and especially of the language, understanding language, or the language system that is affected. We say there is a glitch, or like a hitch on that part of the brain, on the left side. But now, I think God's way of compensating, because God cannot deny you everything. So they are overcompensated on the right side of the brain. So you find most of them are right brain dominant. So those skills, we call them the spatial skills, that are controlled by the right side of the brain, that is where their strengths are. So the sports, music, art, design, creativity,
they're good at that.
They are good at that because those are skills that are controlled by the right side of the brain. And actually even because research has really advanced. Right now, apart from the assessments that I've talked about, you can actually do an imaging, like the MRI. We call it functional MRI. It's not a normal MRI. So this one is fMRI, functional MRI, where once a child is put in that machine, they are able to see the brain at work. And what happens is that a person is given some words to read. Then they look at the activation in the brain. And what happens is that as the child is reading those words, remember we said dyslexia is a reading, it's actually a reading disability. So they'll look at how the brain is activating as the child is, or the person is trying to read. And what the MRI has revealed is that there's very little activation on the left side, and that particular part that is involved in reading. And because they have contrasted that with a regular brain, a typical brain, where a person without dyslexia is taken through the same process, and you can actually see that there's a lot of activation on the left side for a skilled reader. But for a dyslexic person, because of the struggle in reading, the activation is very limited. Again, the same imaging has shown that now persons with dyslexia actually, when it comes to the structure of the brain, because it's about the function and the structure of the brain, it has actually shown that, although this is still a bit controversial, that they actually have a bigger right hemisphere. And maybe that explains why they are so good at these things. And now that is where parents now need to really understand that even if your child is struggling in learning, that is not the end of life. So watch out for other strengths that this child might have. And in most cases, now that's what we are calling talent. So talent development. So you find that because the spatial skills are controlled by the right side, and that's where their strengths are, these kids are highly talented. So in areas of music, arts, sports. And those are the things now parents need to look out for and try to nurture early. Unfortunately, I know the challenge is these talents are more likely, they are better nurtured in school. We are coming from a system, the 844 system, that is highly academic and has no room for
talent and
talent.
Yeah.
But thank God that we are transitioning to CBC that has now room for children to be able to explore different pathways, not just the academic pathway, even the talent pathway, the technical pathway, the vocational pathway, the sports pathway. And I see a lot of hope for children with learning challenges who are also highly talented on that area. Yes. So basically now when it comes to courses, it's more on risk factors than any new course for these conditions.
Wow, like I said, learning. Wow. Let's go to you, Miss Effie. Let's talk about challenges. Like you said, you have siblings who are autistic. Like you also said, being Miss Autistic, you're championing someone else, right? So what are some of these challenges that people with dyslexia and autistic go through?
So the main challenge that I feel is still there is the stigma.
Yeah.
And this stigma is basically caused by lack of awareness. So you find that people act on the fact that they do not know, and also they do not understand. So they also do not know how to act.
Yeah.
So when you come across, let's say, a person with autism, you do not know whether you should touch them, and there are people who do not like to be touched.
Yeah.
So it's basically lack of awareness of what autism and dyslexia. Yeah.
Hi, okay, let's talk about, like, sometimes I feel like you said some of us have no idea what these people are going through, and we really have no clue, right? So you've come across this person, and in your experience you actually have siblings. What are some of those small things that as like, do I say normal people, typical people do that might lead to frustrations when interacting with dyslexic and autistic? And in your case, let's focus on autism.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll talk about having grown up with my siblings.
Exactly.
So you enter into a mall, and then let's say my sister or my brother is jumping, and then everyone is standing. What's going on? Can he be removed out of the mall? Those are some of the things. It's basically when you go to gatherings, you realize that people are giving faces.
Yeah.
And for some, you take your time to just explain there's something, there's a condition he or she has, which is autism. So that's why they're acting the way they're acting. Another challenge would probably be the facilities that we have. Let's say in a mall, given an instance, my sister or brother has a meltdown. And you realize there's no like a room, there's no room where you take them to just calm down and relax. That is another one. So you find that you opt to leave. As much as you went in there to do something, you end up not doing it because your sister has been affected, so you can't stay there any longer. There's also this lights and the sounds, as she mentioned. So there are many challenges, but I mean, I've learned
and I'm also thinking in your cases, people might think those kids are spoiled. They are not getting it, so they might think they are spoiled, right? Yeah. Okay, back to you, Madam Esther. Let's talk about intervention. We've already covered science, we've covered courses. Now, there's someone who is realizing, so now, what do we do next? Like, we have all this information, we've understood. Where do we go to next, or what do we do next? Now, let me cut you. Let's talk in terms, we'll start with home, then we'll go to mainstream education, and let's talk home. What do you do?
Very good. So what do you do? I think I want to start with autism because I think that's the one that is more demanding when it comes to interventions because again the needs are more significant, the challenges are more. So once as a parent you confirm that your child is autistic, and I'll say this confirmation has to come from a professional. As much as we talked about the red flags, and Nancy, we're already in an information age. So like when I joined this field 16 years back, we didn't have internet, and there was no information out there. So parents would actually come very blank, not knowing what they're dealing with.
Yeah.
But now, maybe 90% of the parents that I meet, even if they've not seen a professional, they have Googled, and they already have a clue of what they could be dealing with. But we say, even with that, it's always good to get to a professional who will be able to do a diagnosis, give you the right diagnosis. And diagnosis here is not for labeling. Because again, Nancy, that's also an issue.
Yeah.
I have interacted with parents who feel like a diagnosis is a double-edged sword. That it's good because you know what you're dealing with, and you'll be able to intervene effectively.
Yeah.
There are also those that feel now you've given your child, the child has gotten a label, and this label may limit them in many ways.
Yeah.
That, yes, can be argued that way, but I always say, if you don't know what you're dealing with, you're not able to manage it.
Yeah.
Even our government, that's why statistics are very important.
Yeah.
That's why we always have the census. We want to know how many people with disabilities do we have, so that in our planning and policies, we are able to plan for them with the right numbers.
Yeah.
So that's the same case when it comes to a parent who has a child who is different. So get the diagnosis done, because the diagnosis is not necessarily for labeling. It actually doesn't end at the diagnosis. That is just the beginning. Because this is a child who needs a lot of interventions. If your child is to be functional, if your child is to be helped, he needs all those support services. And those support services will only come once the diagnosis has been made. So at the home front, when it comes to autism, what probably is likely to happen is that once the assessment is done, and the parent now starts seeing different professionals, so like the occupational therapist, the speech therapist, the physiotherapist for those that may need the physio, special education teachers. So you as a parent, you're supposed to work with these professionals. You work as a team, because some of the activities or interventions that they do from their clinic or from the school, they are actually things that can also be done from home, because you realize that they come with a lot of cost. So a parent may not actually be able to do it as frequently as is required. Right now, Nancy, the cheapest special therapist, speech therapist that you're going to get, the cheapest, and these are actually speech therapist assistants, is 3,000
per session.
Per session. If it's done by now as a speech therapist, it is 5,000 a session. Once a week is not enough. Ideally, it could even it should be every day. But maybe because of limitation, you find that kids either do it once a week or twice a week. So imagine twice a week, that's 10,000. That's speech. You come to occupational therapy. Occupational therapy, ideally again, it's supposed to be daily. But maybe parents have it once a week or twice a week. So maybe that's another like 5,000. This child could be on diet therapy. And that's also something we need to talk about when it comes to autism. That there are also diet challenges when it comes to children, some children with autism. Because especially the wheat, because of a product in wheat called gluten, and the dairy milk, the cow milk. There's a product in the milk called casein. So there are kids who react with those products, and therefore that diet, the wheat and the milk diet has to be withdrawn. So we actually say they're on gluten casein-free diet. So if you're to replace that, you now go for diet, gluten-free wheat, which is not cheap. Or you replace the cow milk. Most parents have seen them go for camel milk. It's very expensive. I think half a liter goes for 90. It's not even readily available in Nairobi. It's coming from northeastern, so not readily available. So parents have to opt for other alternatives. Children with autism are picky eaters, so apart from even gluten and casein-free, so you realize they're not eat what ordinary children are eating. So that diet, and again now, if the child is being is being affected by that diet and you have to replace that diet.
Yeah.
It's a very expensive
Diet, yeah.
So managing autism is very expensive. And the challenge is even like the therapy. Our NHIF
doesn't cover. That is so sad.
Yeah. That's something we are trying to push. We actually have come up with a manifesto that we are sharing with all the political parties and hoping that the new government, that is something we would take into consideration. So some of those interventions, as you said, starting from home, a parent working with the professionals, they will be guided on what is it that they can do at home. But you realize that a parent will still be limited because again, some of these interventions are clinical interventions that need a professional to carry them out. But there are few things that a parent can modify and still be able to do it at home. But when it comes to maybe those interventions, as I've said, they are limited. The parent still has to work with the professionals. And of course now there's the cost that comes with it. So when it comes to dyslexia, dyslexia unlike autism, because of the challenges, the sensory challenges, the behavior challenges that comes with it, so you'll actually have a child with dyslexia who does not need to go through speech therapy, who does not need to go through occupational therapy, or even the other therapies, because theirs is just, unless it has co-occurred with another condition that will involve intervention through therapy. For dyslexia, it's just a learning challenge. And so if the presentation is just on learning, all this child is a special baby, a special needs teacher, a learning support teacher who will give them that extra dose to catch up on the learning gaps that they experience during class. So this one from home, I think where the parent would come in is, of course, working, as I've said, very closely with the teacher. And because dyslexia also comes with other challenges. You find a child may have issues with time management. They may have challenges with the organization skills. They have challenges with planning. So as a parent now, you have to come in and support the child on those skills that may be lacking. Then, of course, provision of homework, because they will tend to avoid that homework. They adopt some behaviors for avoidance behavior. So if they've been given a homework, then it's challenging them. The natural thing is for them to avoid it. So as a parent, you have to ensure that you're supervising the homework, and of course work very closely with the teachers. And the teachers, we always advise when you have a child with dyslexia, limit the homework. So maybe you're giving others 30 questions. Honestly, if you give a child with dyslexia 30 questions, they will do those questions until morning. So you can now moderate the assignments, the homework. Then of course now that it's for the parent to supervise and to give whatever little support they can to ensure that that work is done.
All right.
So from the home front, I think those are some of the things that can be done.
Wow, nice. Hey, wow. Effie, let's talk support. As a family, how do you go about to treat your brother and your sister? Remember, most of us have no clue what is going on. But now maybe we have an idea. How do you support them? How do you make it easier for them before they step out of that door and meet the real world out there? How do you empower them at home?
I'd say you don't really have to change the technique, because either way, if you babysit them at home, one time you won't be there for them. So it's also good to expose them to how the outside world is. So it's basically you involving them in all the things that you do, giving them a listening ear, be very patient, also be very empathetic. Right? Not only to us siblings, even the world out there, it's good to also be accommodative of these persons with intellectual disabilities, because the intellectual disability that they have is already something. So if they come out there and then you're giving them that face, there's also the stigma in the society. Personally, I'd advise to just be accommodative and learn Yeah, yeah.
I think, I don't know whether I'm supposed to, but I'll bring it up.
Okay.
I saw your sister, she's a fan of Brian Otieno, right?
Yeah.
Tell us something about that, because I want really people to get that you can support them, you can show them you love them, how to include them. How do you go about it? Like, that is one of the ways that you make sure that your sister doesn't, you added something extra nice in her life. Tell us about that.
All right, so let's talk about the amazing date that I organized for my sister.
Yeah.
So previously she had been really obsessing over Brian Otieno. So Valentine's Day was approaching, so I decided, let me just DM, because every time she would see Brian Otieno on TV, she would literally melt. You could literally see, this is too much. Let me make a point of having them meet. So what was the right thing to do? I do not have Brian's number, so we have Instagram. I decided to DM him and tell him, I have a sister. Of course, I had to mention she has autism, so that even as he comes, he considers all the
factors,
sensitive factors that he should put. Yeah, so I basically approached him, and then, being a good person that he is, he agreed to come, and I met my sister's day. So for me, it's basically making her happy. Yeah. Right? So in a world where we have cruel people, so that one thing that you feel this would make her day, that's what I strive for. Yeah. Wow. So it's the little thing.
You strive for what will make her day. That is very nice. Yeah. Okay, now let's talk mainstream education. I'll give you an example. I attempted to be a teacher once. Back after Numemaliza High School, I was like, I'm not those people who can actually stay and do nothing. So I decided to be a teacher. So I remember I was teaching class 5 English. There were these 2 kids. They had repeated. They were like, I think they were supposed to be in class 8 or something, but they had repeated. So I found them wakiwa class 5. And now that we're talking about it, I feel so guilty because now that I think about it, probably these kids were dyslexic, and as teachers we had termed them slow. They're slow learners. I think that happens with dyslexia. And so I was the youngest teacher, so you find even the oldest teacher there, they have no clue. They're also going with they're slow, they act out, they don't want to read. Maybe it's because their father, who they also used to teach, were the same. He used to act out, he was the same. You get it? So how do we make sure that, Madam Esther, how do we make sure that these teachers in the mainstream education, and especially those ones who are in shags, at least those ones who are in towns, they have a clue, they have an idea, or us young ones, like Effie, you have a clue, but there's a 60-year-old teacher back there in shags who has no idea about this dyslexia and autism. So how do we get this information to them?
Thank you, Nancy. It's interesting
to I attempted, it didn't work out.
Okay, very good. Yes, so I think for me this is a very big challenge in our country. It's a system challenge, and I think it all boils down to policies, because what happens is that during the teacher training, the teachers who train for special education, those that now are enlightened about these issues, about these conditions, when they graduate, they are posted to special schools. So it's like they go to preach to the converted. Yeah. But as a country, we do not have maybe a policy where teachers who are trained in special education end up in a mainstream school to give to sensitize or to build capacity for the other teachers, the regular teachers, on how to handle these children. So I think for me that's where the first gap is. And I think the other gap is that as a country we also don't have a mechanism on identifying or screening children for who are at risk for learning challenges. And because like in the developed countries, that is what they do. So once the children join kindergarten, by the end of kindergarten, there is a national screening, an assessment that is given across all schools to screen children who may be at risk for learning challenges, so that they are identified early and the interventions begin early. And I think for me, that's even where the biggest problem is, even more than the policy on teacher training. Because what happens is that we'll send these children to school. There is no mechanism to screen them or to assess them. And until now, we as a country, we adopt what we call it's not actually a wait and see approach. We call it wait and fail approach. So until the child starts failing, that's when now everybody now is alert. Like, here there's a problem. And that is maybe around class 4, 5. And this child has struggled all through.
Has trauma, some sort of trauma.
And now the other challenge is that they are made to repeat class after class. And I always say, if you make a child repeat or you retain a child in the same class, and you're going to do things the same way you did them the previous year, how do you expect results? So that is also now a big challenge. So that you find that these children are already in the mainstream schools, but we have no way of identifying them. Nancy, I can tell you, we have no data in this country as to how many children are dyslexic or even autistic. We have no data. But the fact of the matter is, dyslexia is the most common cause of learning issues. In a class, when you have a normal distribution of the abilities, the most of the children who fall behind could likely be having a learning issue, although there are also other factors that would contribute to maybe poor performance in school. So that's also now a big challenge. So as much as we are all seeing inclusion, because the world is going into inclusion, actually the best practice right now is that children who have special needs or children who are able differently are supposed to be mainstreamed or included with their able peers. But I don't think as a country we are prepared for that, because it's not just mere inclusion, it's not just mere accommodation, physically accommodating. There has to be systems, support systems that are supporting these children to be able to thrive. Because we've just said they are talented. So if one area does not work, the other areas that work best for them. So I feel as a country we have a long way to go. We're still playing catch up. And I would want to give an analogy of our education system where it's a one-size-fits-all. So you send those kids to school.
Same syllabus.
Same time allocated per lesson.
Same exams.
Same learning resources, no adaptations or modifications. We are not cognizant of the fact that these children are different. I keep saying this, Nancy. When those kids, when you walk into a grade 1 class, there's a child who is wearing shoe size 1, another one 38, another one 34. Clothes the same. So if all other body parts are different, what makes us think the brain is the same? That we've got to teach we've got to treat the brain the same without considering the diversity, the neurodiversity in our class. That we have different abilities. We have children who will perform well, and we have others who will struggle, and therefore they need that extra support. So what our education system has done is an analogy that was given by Albert Einstein, where you get a monkey, an elephant, a whale, and another animal there, and you want to subject them to a test, and the test here is climbing a tree. So out of those animals, who will emerge number one? It's the monkey. True. Actually, as they are being given instructions, the monkey is smiling ear to ear because he already knows I'll be the winner. But supposing you are more sensitive to the different abilities and strengths of these animals, and you say the fish, you will take you to the water. That's where your testing will be. The monkey will be on the tree, and another animal wherever they thrive the most. So definitely now, for the fish that cannot climb that tree, it will forever live knowing that it's stupid. Well, it's not, because if it was taken to the water, it's a different ballgame altogether. And that's what our education system all along has done with our kids. That the traditional benchmarks that test reading, writing, those are the areas that kids with learning challenges are challenged. So if that is what we are testing them for, definitely they will forever live knowing that they are stupid. While probably it will just adjust and adapt the environment and give them the support that they need. They will thrive in their areas of strength. So that's the biggest challenge that we have in the mainstream. And of course now she has talked about the stigma, and stigma is brought about by something called the medical model. So the medical model looks at a person with disability as somebody who is incapacitated, somebody maybe who is deceased, somebody who cannot amount to anything. And therefore we create all these barriers around them. So we actually say for persons with disability, it's not the disability itself that incapacitates them. It is the external factors, the attitudes, the environment that we have maybe not modified and adapted to suit them. But now the persons with disability came up with another model themselves, which they call the social model. And for us, we want the person with disability, the medical model wants the person with disability. We want to fix the person, not the environment, which will not work. But the social model say fix the environment, change the attitudes, all the attitudinal barriers, the environmental barriers, have favorable legislations for these people. So because once we fix the system, persons with disability automatically thrive. And for me as an educationist, that is what I feel we need to do. That it's the system that needs fixing, it's not these kids. Teachers want to fix the kids, and they think fixing is making them repeat. They think fixing is caning them. They think fixing is calling them all those names, all those derogatory
and associating their slowness with their parents.
With their parents, actually, as teachers, I think we have a very big case to answer. Actually indicted. And if again the level of the awareness, because you've talked about that. You've talked about that teacher who is back in the village, who's never even heard about the term dyslexia. So for me, I feel it's about going back to the teacher training policy, where every teacher who is undergoing training, there has to be a component of special education. And quite explicit, because I went through teacher training, I did regular training. Of course, there was a unit on individual differences that you're going to encounter once you go to a class, but there was nothing explicit about learning challenges and the different hidden disabilities that you find in class. So even what we knew about disabilities when we were training is that we have children who are deaf, who are blind, physically challenged, and what we previously used to call mental retardation, the intellectual disability. But nobody prepared that we are going to find invisible disabilities in class, the dyslexia. A child looking very, very normal, but cannot read, even basic reading. The literacy levels highly compromised because of conditions that you cannot see. So we've got to go back to the teacher training policies and ensure that the teachers during the teacher training is that component. Maybe for those that have already done with their training, maybe I believe the ministry can come up with a capacity.
They've been trained about CBC, so I don't think there is an excuse for not training them.
Absolutely.
And I also feel like when we say disability is not inability, it's like as the world, we are disabling them even more. It's them who show us, I'm not disabled, like I can still do this. And I also feel like the government, I want to say they are stealing, like because like you said, people with dyslexia, like I interacted with the kids at KCCL, very intelligent, very good English, like they're normal, they're okay, but now you find they're only having problems when it comes to writing. So when you meet them one-on-one, you can't actually be able to tell there's something going on. You get, so I feel like we need ourselves and as the government, we have a lot to do. Now, if you back to you, you're a teacher at KCCL. Maybe there's that teacher who is like, I've gotten the homework one, I've also gotten, what other tricks as a teacher do you usually implement in your class?
All right, so at KCCL, we basically use technology. So we have assistive devices that help. So we have something called Kahoot. It's basically them learning through without having to write.
Yeah.
So it's basically you read and then it's left for them to answer. That is a very good accommodative aspect of it. Also, it's for me as a teacher, I think every day is a learning day.
Yeah.
Because you'll come today with your lesson plan, saying, so today I'll teach this and this. By the end of the lesson, this is what I expect.
Yeah.
And then that's not what happened.
Yeah.
So you have to go again to the drawing board and say, okay, I tried this, it didn't work. I have to find another way that will work for this particular student. Even as we issue our homework, we have differentiation. So there's no homework that will look the same as another child. Yeah. So that's basically in terms of their abilities. You wouldn't give a child that you know deep down is struggling. You won't give them a very complex assignment. That way you're not helping them.
Yeah.
Yeah, so those are the aspects we're embracing. And we also have, I mean, we were brought up in a way that you were to fear teachers.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for teachers in the mainstream, I feel like they still have that. So it's like when we see miss, I have
There's
to go to the other.
close intimacy between the teacher and the kid. Yeah.
So for this kid, be their friend. I mean,
yeah.
Be very friendly with them. Give them a listening ear. I mean, they'll
be
tell
their
you
friend.
something.
Yeah, be their friend.
Be their friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I also love what you said about giving homework, making sure that this is for this kid, this is for... That means it takes a lot of patience, passion, and a lot of time.
Learning every day.
It's a calling. So, wow, we really need to go because I feel like time is not on our side, but we still need to talk about it. So, Madam Esther, nitajaribu kuku kidogo tu. Yeah, let's talk about awareness. Like, I feel like that is the key thing that we are missing in our society. Awareness. How do we create this awareness? Starting from churches to job sectors to schools to us at a personal level. How do we go about it? And how do we make sure it's effective? Yeah.
Very good. So awareness.
Yeah,
yes,
awareness.
It all boils down to awareness because I believe once people are empowered with information, they are able to make the right decisions, they are able to make right choices, and I'm happy that the media is really embracing this topic, and that's actually why we are here today. But it has to be a concerted effort because for me and Miss Effie, we are just teachers, and we are doing what we are doing in our own very small way. But I feel like if also other like-minded stakeholders and government being on the front line, you've seen the way the government has performed when it comes to COVID awareness. COVID is very new. It just came last year, March. But even the grandmother who's in Pakistan,
Akona mask.
Akona mask. Anajua hii gonjwa. It's a bad disease, and they know what to do. The interventions that need to be put in place to be able to not contract the disease. So I look at that. If within 1 year we have been able to achieve so much awareness about COVID, how more should we also achieve if we were actually also to put and channel resources on creating awareness? So I think for me, I would really want to challenge the same energy, the same resources they have channeled to the health sector, especially to COVID. Okay, maybe COVID because it's life-threatening. Autism may not be life-threatening, dyslexia may not be. But it is life-threatening if a child is denied the right to education, the right to thriving, and the sad thing is that Nancy, these cases are on the rise. The prevalence for autism and dyslexia, it is on the high everywhere across the world. So it is actually, we are facing a crisis that if it is not addressed in a timely manner, it would escalate to something else. And the fact that we as a country, we have a constitution that safeguards the right to education, the right to those human rights, because education is a human right. And we have ratified international treaties, like we have the UN Convention on Persons with Disabilities, which we are party to. And so I feel that we are obliged to ensure that this awareness is raised. But I'm happy that in the recent past we have many institutions, organizations that are championing for the awareness and for the rights of persons with disabilities. I'm happy that you have mentioned the church, because I as KCCL and at a personal level, I work with churches. And why churches is because for me, my interest is with the children. And I've always asked myself, how do children with autism, how are they accommodated in church with all these behavior issues, with all these sensory issues? And I get parents telling me, Esther, we stopped going to church. The stigma in church is even higher than the ordinary society, or the judgment in church, and especially now when you bring a spiritual aspect, the child will be so they're actually judged, and parents who have said we opted for the TV church. They actually said when COVID came, it was even a blessing in disguise, because now church is online throughout, and they don't have to be subjected to what they go through in church. And for me, that raised a very pertinent question. Is church also aware? How can we build the capacity of even the Sunday school teachers just to be able to understand and also support these children? So I totally agree that there's a lot of awareness that needs to be done, and especially on this issue, these two conditions, Nancy, because other disabilities the church has embraced very well. Actually, when I ask maybe church people, so are you embracing disabilities? And they're very quick to say, yes, we have a ramp, we have a sign language interpreter, and having done that, they feel they have
they've really done it.
They've done it, and they're doing inclusion. And I tell them that's good enough, but are you aware that not all disabilities are on wheelchair?
Exactly.
We have what we call hidden disabilities. We have persons with autism. You have persons with dyslexia. If you're projecting maybe a sermon there, or you have kids who are expected to read the Bible or do some activities in Sunday school, and they are not able to write. How do you, like Miss Effie has talked about differentiation. So as the Sunday school teacher is coming up with that lesson for that day, do they have in mind that there's going to be an autistic child in that Sunday school? There's going to be a dyslexic child in that class. There's going to be a child with hard of hearing in that class. So how do they also accommodate those children? So those are just children. When you come to the main service, we have adults with autism, like her siblings are adults, they are adults, so they not end up in Sunday school, so they're in the main church. But how are they also accommodated? I'm very impressed with one church, I'm not name withheld, but they've really embraced inclusion, and especially autism. And what this church has done, they have actually built a therapy room, where when these kids come and they go to Sunday school and they go into a meltdown, they can actually be taken to that room, they relax, they calm down, and they can go back to Sunday school. And that way, we at least also give these mothers a reprieve. They are with these kids from Monday to Saturday. So at least if 2 hours the kids can be in Sunday school, as the mother enjoys her service, that will really help a great deal. But it all boils down to awareness.
Okay, my director is like, Nancy, time. So, in few words, I feel it's not fair if I don't talk about this cause you have of normalizing disability. Can you tell us, what do you mean by normalizing disability? Does it mean we ignore or we give it less weight? What do you mean when you say normalizing disability?
So basically what I mean by normalizing is basically incorporating these intelligent people, not having to seclude them. Let's say you have an activity. Don't say, because this person has autism, they can't do this. Incorporate them. Then from there, they can see, indeed, I am loved. So that's what I mean by normalizing.
Because
and
I
also
don't
like give them the washe feeling.
Exactly.
That helps. They do not like being washed.
Yeah.
I do not know which word to use, but yeah, that's what I basically mean by normalizing intellectual disability.
Yeah.
Because we really have to move away from it's a white man's disease or condition. Yeah, so that's basically what I mean.
So very quickly, Madam Esther, let's talk talent and gifts. One, I don't know, 2 sentences, please.
Yes.
How do we go about it?
Yes, so persons with dyslexia and autism are highly talented.
Yeah.
So it's just trying to identify those talents early, harness them, develop them, give children opportunities to be able to practice those skills, because by so doing, that's how you develop the skills. Because even highly successful people with these conditions, Richard Branson, Thomas Edison, Whoopi Goldberg,
Walt Disney,
yes, all those big people. And these are not people we just read on the internet, Nancy. I have had the privilege of interacting with them, some of them at a personal level, Richard Branson, those summits, the global summits that we attend. And for real, when you talk to them and interact with them, they've looked at their conditions, and especially dyslexia, as a gift. They actually call it the gift of dyslexia. Richard Branson, together with other dyslexics, have started an organization called Made by Dyslexia.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yes, and they're saying they're what they are. They're made by dyslexia.
So
that is talent. They use their God-given talent. Talents that are actually powered by dyslexia or autism to turn around something that would have maybe looked like a negative thing to a positive thing. You know, literally, when life gives you a lemon,
you make lemonades.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's what I tell parents, that you have this child who may be struggling in one area.
Yeah.
So don't define them with what they are not able to do. See what they are able to do.
Yeah.
Focus on that. Support them on that. And it will surprise you.
Wow. So, no, we really need to finish. Effie, I want your parting shot. Now, before that, can I ask, Miss Autism, when does it happen, so that if there's someone else out there who is interested in participating, they can participate? And then we will cover the event. We're going to be there. Yeah, tell us about that, and also parting shot to siblings as a sister, or also as a sister who has siblings with this autism and dyslexia, and also talk to those young people who now, like some of them might feel threatened, they have low esteem, they feel like they're not enough. I want you to talk to them. You use that camera direct, look at them. Yeah.
All right, so Miss Autism Kenya is a pageant that normally happens in April, which is an Autism Awareness Month. So that's when we have that, but before then we have the auditions that are meant to happen, I think, January. So it's all right, okay. So it's also good to check out their pages so that you're well informed on when they're having their auditions, and also to participate in such a good initiative. You also mentioned...
You wanted you to talk to those young people who feel like less of themselves because they're autistic.
All right, so let me first of all talk about the siblings. Siblings, you are the people to change this world. I mean, it starts with you. I know, as much as when you're growing up with a child with a special need, all the attention is given to them. So you feel like you're not loved. I mean, it's good for us also to understand. And also what I normally tell most of them is accept that your sister or brother has a disability. That's the only way that will help. So with you accepting, you feel very confident sharing it to the world, not hiding your sister, because most of them tend to hide or just say,
you don't want to be associated.
There's no way I could go with you to such an event. Carry them with you. I mean, how will the world know they exist?
True.
Yeah, so that's for siblings, and also to the world. To the world out there. As much as we are creating awareness, can we just try and embrace acceptance for these people with intellectual disabilities? Because as much as we tend to move away or not want to associate with them, they are the smartest people I know. They are the most intellectual people I know. They are very smart. So let's just embrace, accept, because people are diverse. I can't say me and you because we are typical, we are the same. you might learn a lot from them. So it's also good to be open-minded with persons with intellectual disabilities.
And also I also feel like people need to get being autistic and dyslexia doesn't mean there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing, because I feel like people sometimes you don't want to be associated with them because of kwanza we drop that attitude, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Now, Madam Esther, to you, I want you to talk to those parents. I want you to give them a word of encouragement, and also as a teacher, I want you to talk to teachers and to parents. And encouragement, like,
Very well. So my fellow parents, I'm a parent too, so I'm speaking to my fellow parents. If you have a child with special needs or a child who is different, my advice is, first of all, treat that child just like the way you treat the others. The same opportunities you have for your other children should be the same opportunities. The same expectations you have for your other children should be the same expectations. Definitely the one who may have the special needs may require more focus, may require more investment if you are to support them. But it's not a death sentence to have a child who has special needs. Information is power. Reach out to people like us who have information on the right schools where your child can be assessed, what opportunities are out there, right from education, even to employment. From where I sit, I have seen students go through the motion of school and even support them in employment, either self-employment or even formal employment. So there are opportunities out there. Be your child's advocate. As Ms. Effie has said, if you hide them, you're not helping them. But if you're proud of your child, the society will treat your child the way you treat them. So if you're proud of your child, if you bring them out to family functions or other functions, even for those that might be staring at your child, don't take offense. Use that opportunity to teach them a thing or two about the condition that your child is having. Because once we raise the awareness, we'll be able to change perceptions, we'll change attitudes, and we'll create a better environment for our children. So I want to tell you that there's a lot of hope. Hopefully next time, Nancy giving us an opportunity will come and discuss the opportunities that are out there for our children, because the opportunities are there. So just again, look for support groups. We have different support groups depending on the condition of your child. And you get to interact with a community of other parents, and this is really, really helpful because you get a lot of information that supports you in parenting a child who is different. So to my fellow teachers, I have the heart of a parent and a teacher. So to my fellow teachers, I would want to urge you to be in an information age. If you have a child who is different in your class and you can see the symptoms that they are presenting with, even maybe before you go back to college for formal training, already the information is out there. It would help if you just maybe search and see what is it that this child could be presenting with. And then from there, you're more empowered and you're in a position to advise the parent. Getting information from Google does not make you a special needs teacher or an expert, but at least you can direct that child to the right help. Attitude, let's change our attitude. When you have a child who is different in your class, who is not performing, I know the natural thing for teachers is to move with the bright ones and sometimes to leave those that are not performing well behind. So it would help that we also change our attitude. These children, actually, all they need is our support, all they need is our love. And I've seen sometimes just a little change in attitude by teachers has really helped, even helping that child to feel motivated and to do a bit more. Of course, we also have opportunities for your own personal development, where if you have those children in class, you can still build your capacity, even formally, to be able to support those children. Because every child who is entrusted to you, there's a reason why that child is in your class. So, and that reason, you might be that child who will make that child to be the Richard Branson of Kenya.
Yeah.
But again, you may also be that person who will break that child, that they'll end up dropping out of school, end up being a juvenile delinquent, and end up in prison just because you said something or did something that broke this child. So as teachers, we have a higher duty and higher calling to ensure that the children entrusted in our hands, we will not be judged because of the way we treat them.
Wow. I feel like we should end up with, it starts with you. You saw those campaigns, it starts with you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so
we start a hashtag.
We start a hashtag, it starts with you.
Yes.
So, super quickly, Effie, where can we find you?
Alright, so it's good to mention I have a YouTube channel that basically talks about all intellectual disabilities. So the channel is called Simply Effie. There you can learn all types of intellectual disabilities. It's Simply Effie on YouTube. On Instagram is also I am Effie. I am not on Facebook.
Wow, how?
But you can find me there. I would probably, is it good to give my email address?
You can.
All right, email address alice.effie26@gmail.com.
All right.
Yeah.
So, Madam Esther, I've been told our viewers want to get in touch with you. So, how can they get in touch with you? Where can they find you? And if it's okay with you, maybe we can give out your number.
All right.
Yeah.
So on social media, we have a Facebook page, Kenya Community Center for Learning. We also on Instagram. We are on
KCCL Kenya.
KCCL Kenya.
Yes. So for those that would want to get in touch with me directly, I can share our office line 0734 152 809 0734 152 809. I am also in private consultants. I run an organization called Bloom Dyslexia Center. So I'm on Facebook in that era.
Yeah.
And so you can also reach out to me and visit our page. It's actually a hub for dyslexia information.
Wow.
And as KCCL, we have a website. So if you visit our website, you'll be able to learn more about the school, the programs that we offer, everything about the school.
Yeah,
it's
there.
on the website.
Yeah. Wow, I feel like we've only scrapped like a little bit, like this. Like I've heard about support groups. I'm like, what? Anyway, I saw you guys like we were winding up, but I saw you had prom. Like, how did that go? Was it? It went well. I want to hope it went well. It went well. So now we have a prom king and a prom. You know, I only see these things in movies. Like,
maybe I can say something more about that.
Yeah.
And people keep asking me why prom. We only see that on movies.
Yeah.
And for us, what we do with these children, we try to create opportunities that other children experience. Of course, we are an international school, and that's something that the international schools do. But they are regular schools, so we say they have siblings in the other schools that are doing prom. So why not also? And also we expose them, because once you take a child to a hotel, so for us there's so many life skills that it's not just the fun aspect of it, it's also the life skills training, because you teach these children fine dining, table etiquette, how do you behave in a social setup. So some of those activities that we actually plan, they are not just for fun.
No.
There's a lot of training and learning that go with them. Even trips. We do educational trips, we do fun trips, overnight trips, 3 nights to any part of the country. But there are a lot of life skills. And these children, they are so confined to their homes, because some of these children are not children you send to their grandmother or to their auntie, because of the challenges that they have. They are just confined to their homes with their parents and siblings. So we create opportunities that will remove them from that comfort of their home, and at least even just give parents reprieve, that they have 2 nights they can now relax, knowing that their children are in safe hands and doing a lot of learning. And those activities has really helped Nancy. So for the first time, a parent will tell me, this is the first time my child is spending a night away from home. And when they come back, now they start even now going to visit relatives, that they are very comfortable. They can go to an auntie's, a grandma's place, and spend there without their siblings or their parents.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow, now my director can stop fighting with me. I'm wrapping up.
It's also good to mention that all this improve their confidence. I mean,
improve that, like you want them to be confident enough and not feel limited.
And prepare them for the world.
Exactly.
We might be a special school, but we have no special church,
no
special mosque, no special matatu,
even hospitals.
No special hospitals.
Yeah, true.
We've got to expose them to the world. Yes.
Wow, guys, we've come to the end of it, but don't worry. I feel like this is going to be part 1. We're going to be having another session. Yeah, we're going to talk about everything else that maybe we have left, but I'm sure by now you guys have learned a thing or two about dyslexia and autism. Like they've said, if you want to talk to them directly, you can do that on their Facebook page on KCCL, that is Kenya Community Center for Learning. I've been your host, Nancy Kuria. I hope you guys have had a good time, because me, I feel like I've learned and I've also had a good time. So see you next time. Keep it here at DigiTV, and remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel at DigiTV Kenya on YouTube, and we are live on Facebook, so please leave your comment and also share, and let's talk invincible disabilities, hidden disabilities. It doesn't stop here, so make sure you keep this conversation going. Thank you so much for your time this morning. God bless you.